What's the other one?
Drum and Avenger.
Oh, yeah.
Avenger. Don't complain when you get up next to them, man. It's a good one. Alright, here they come.
Parade. Right turn. Parade. At ease. Wreath Laying. Now to District Council, Sam, our liaison councillor. Ben, our local policeman from Kimbolton. So you are for... Of course you are. Very quick. Anthony School was last. We're good to go, Anthony? Okay, Anthony. Oldest and the youngest. We now have Pauline, our secretary, to read the ode.
They shall not grow old, as we that live grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor their years condemn. At the going down of the sun, we will remember them, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Thank you, Pauline. We still do the Volley of Shots. We have a new, can I say, politically correct shooter, although he has missed it here occasionally. Philip Pierpoint, Blanchie, Travis. All yours, Trav.
No.
Yep.
Ready? Fire. Ready? Fire. Ready? Fire.
Parade. Attention. stand easy. I welcome you all to come into the hall for our service. Right, yep. Welcome, especially Sambo. You all right, Sambo?
Carry on, John.
Thank you. Steve, good to see you, Steve. Yep, you can come in. I know you like standing out there. Awesome. Hey, magnificent. Thank you. What a day for Apiti and districts for the RSA service 2026. 110 years since the Battle of the Somme. Apologies. Mary Loveridge, Bill and Pam Court, Adrian and Angela Dempster, Joe and Val Devlin, Boy Mananui, Chris Bird, June Barrett. Last post. Now this is some big names here that we've lost. Apiti Vice President Rod McKenzie, last year's Speaker Jeff Edge, and local but is in fielding and a very good member of the Orua Fielding Old Boys Club, Ted Meads. We always knew Ted because he's called Big Ted. And Murray Fording. Quick note on Murray Fording. He's the one that we all remember years ago setting up his company and going around the districts. I think Rangiwahi or Apiti was on a Wednesday, coming around to fix all our pumps up, and he then developed from there into what we've got now with, because he's with Monty Marsden, and now Monty's son Mark does set up the speaker system and all that now. So Murray is a tremendous loss, so is the rest. So we'll just have a minute silence for those. We'll now have a speech from our council liaison, Sam. Audio, Sam.
The Governor General's Anzac Day Message 2026. Tēnā koutou katoa. Every year as dawn breaks on the 25th of April, New Zealanders gather in cities, small towns, RSAs and marae across our nation to remember those who served and those who never returned home. Anzac Day remains one of our most important civic occasions, a moment to honour the courage, the sacrifice, the dedication shown by generations of New Zealanders in times of conflict. This year, as we mark Anzac Day, we again reflect on the extraordinary service of those who have answered New Zealand's call over the last century. Their stories remind us of the enduring cost of war and the deep imprint it leaves upon families, communities and our collective memory. In the decades since the Second World War, New Zealand has worked tirelessly to promote international cooperation and support peaceful resolutions through institutions such as the United Nations. From peacekeeping missions to humanitarian assistance, our Defence Force, police and other frontline services have continued to uphold these values with professionalism and humility, contributing to stability and hope in regions facing hardship. Today's global environment remains uncertain. Conflicts that have displaced millions, rising geopolitical tensions, and humanitarian crises continue to impact the resilience of nations and international relations. These events serve as a reminder of why our commitment to peace, diplomacy, and multilateralism is so important. The lessons learned at such cost by earlier generations are as relevant now as they were more than a century ago. Anzac Day calls on us not only to remember, but to renew our resolve to build a more peaceful world. As we honour the service and the sacrifice of our veterans and of all those who continue to serve today, may we carry forward the values they embodied: courage, integrity, and a commitment to the well-being of others, lest we forget. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Happy school. Reading. Yes, you know which ones? Of course you do. Simple, eh? Oh, you're doing this. You good?
Before the sun begins its climb, the winter chill takes hold. Medals clink on heavy coats, stories yet untold. The scent of rosemary is sharp, a sprig upon the breast, for those who sail to distant shores and found eternal rest.
The mist clings to the nation, or the silence of the sound, as the bugle cuts the morning air on hallowed local ground. From the bluff up to the cape, beneath the Southern Cross, a nation pauses head bowed low to weigh the price of loss.
They weren't just names in granite carved or figures in a book. They were the boy from down the road, the shepherd by the brook. From the scrub of Chinook Bear to the mud of Passchendaele, the ferns stood tall in foreign fields when all the world turned pale.
We do not cheer the cannon's roar or glorify the brave, but honour the quiet courage that led them on their way. The spirit of the Anzac lives in every hand we lend, and the bond of Meachan washed in fire, a strength that will not bend.
The poppy blooms in crimson hue, a flicker in the grey, as New Zealand stands together on this April Anzac Day, lest we forget.
Thank you, Happy School. Okay. Guest speaker will be my brother Stephen, and I'll introduce him. We know who he is. Ex-councillor, farmer, etc. All good.
I had a phone call about 10 days or 7 days ago asking if I would speak at the Rangawahia service. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's not much, not long enough to put things together, but I said I'd give it a go. And then last night I got an SOS call from my brother. So, could you speak the same one today in Apiti because our speaker can't come today. So here I am. It's all been a bit rushed, but I'll do my best in honouring our wonderful soldiers that defended our freedom. Anzac Day. Firstly, I'd like to thank all those who have made this special Anzac service possible today. Today I'm going to attempt to tell the stories of 5 of my Rangawahia relatives who all went to war and how the lives of these 3 men are intertwined. Special thanks to my cousin Ann Fiefin for providing our great uncle's diary, Trevor Bielski for Uncle Herb's records, cousin Kate Garland for Uncle Ted's records, Christine and Belliedge for Uncle Bill's, and thanks to Mary for putting together the information. So here it goes. Unfortunately, our world is full of never-ending evil, and war has been part of every generation of our human civilization. I'll just stop there because last week we had our friend from Auckland come down with his friend, and when he stopped at our place, his friend took the car to Bulls to see his brother, who had the full effects or affects of Agent Orange in Vietnam. And so not only do we have the Boer War, First World War, Second World War, we have Korea and we have Vietnam plus ongoing wars. The Bible is very clear about this reality. Ecclesiastes in chapter 3 verse 8 tells us there's a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Jesus said in Matthew 24 there would be wars and rumours of wars. There is no getting away from this fact, whether we like it or not. The districts of Rangawahia, Mangaremu. Now Mangaremu was south of Rangawahia before you go up the hills to Kimbolton. It was quite a village back then. And Oneida are the places where these relatives lived, worked and connected with each other. Everyone knew everyone and were more than likely related, gathering at their churches on Sundays. When the wars came, these communities gave their fair share of young men. The men I'm going to tell you about were all my relatives, 2 great uncles, 2 uncles and an uncle-in-law. Their stories are bound together across 2 world wars, across the muddy fields of Europe and the deserts of North Africa, stories of courage and loss, of endurance and survival, of ordinary people asked to do unimaginable things. At the heart of all of them was a woman named Isabella Stent, my grandmother. As I look at the white crosses here before us and the names on the cenotaph, I am reminded that every single name tells a story just like my uncle's. Their details are often scarce and with time, not always accurate, but let me tell you about them the best I know how. The Battle of Somme, 1916. On the 1st of July 1916, the British and Allied armies launched one of the most devastating offences in the history of warfare. The Battle of Somme would last 4.5 months, claim over 1 million casualties on both sides, and be defined by artillery, machine gun fire, and conditions of almost imaginable mud and misery. And I just add in there too, there was gas used. Among those caught up in it were 2 young men from the northern Manawatu who almost certainly knew each other. Richard Stent from Oneida and Owen Rose from Mangaremu. Both were my relatives. Richard Stent. Richard was the little brother of my grandmother, Isabella. In the course of Isabella's life, she lost a stepbrother in the Boer War, a brother in the First World War, and she saw 2 of her sons and son-in-law go to the Second World War. Richard sailed from Wellington in November 1915. By the summer of 1916, he was in the trenches on the Western Front. On 3rd of July 1916, just 2 days into the Battle of Somme, Richard was killed in action. He is buried at the New Zealand Memorial in northern France. He was 20 years old, but according to his birth record, he was born 1899, which made him only 17 or 18. I wonder if he faked his age when he enlisted. Next up, Owen Arthur Rose. Owen Rose was my great uncle, and unlike Richard, he left something behind, a diary. Owen was one of the 11 children born to Arthur and Minnie Rose at Mangaremu, and it is thanks to his family that his diary survived. His brother Gilbert was a trooper in the 6th Manawatu Mounted Rifles, serving 2 years in the Egyptian campaign. But it is Owen who left us his words. His diary began in March 1916, a day at the Apiti show, with his mate Rolly, a ride in Charlie Mackenzie's motorcar, the writing of a young man who had no idea what was coming. On May 1916, he was in camp, assigned to the Otago Infantry, and then inoculated, shipped out to Alexandria in Egypt at dawn, a new ship by Saturday, rough seas, France by train through the night. He kept noting in his diary on Sundays, church at Mangaremu. Not a service he could attend, just a quiet record that back home his community would be gathering as always. he was keeping himself connected to the place he came from. On the 23rd of July, he turned 22 in an isolation ward, recovering from German measles. He played cricket that afternoon and then wrote, wondering what they're doing at home and if they remembered my birthday. He noted in his diary that he saw a man named Bob Stent at the town of Western France, almost certainly a relative of Richard's, possibly his older brother, and had a yarn with him. At the time, Richard had been dead for 3 weeks. Whether either of them knew it yet, we cannot say. And we tried to get our records at Bob Stent, but we just had a blank war wherever, so we wish some of our older relatives were still alive. By late July, Owen was in the firing line, the same trenches where Richard had fallen. He carried timber and stood gas guard, watching the wind to see whether the gas would come to them. On hot days when the wind blew towards the trench. On a quiet Friday, he walked down a country road and ate blackberries. In September, the Battle of Somme come to him. Marching, sore feet, sleeping on the ground in the dark. On Monday the 11th, he was excused duties with sore feet. He wrote letters home, one to a girl named Jessie, one to his mum. That was his last entry. On Friday the 15th of September 1916, there was no entry. That was the day the British Army used tanks in battle for the first time in history. Owen Rose from Mangarimu was there. He did not come home. The last entry in Owen's diary is not in his hand. His mother wrote, Saturday the 16th, Owen reported missing, believed killed. Back in Rangiwahia, my grandmother, Isabella, waited for the news. With 4 small boys at home, and the Mangarimu, Arthur and Millie Rose waited for news of their 2 sons. One did not return. 2 young men taken by the same battle within 2 months of each other from a district that had given more than its share. Isabella was just 28 years old. She and Thomas Bielski, my grandfather, would go on to have 11 children together. But before she could rest, she would have to watch 2 of those small boys go to another war. Herbert Bielski. Uncle Herb was 27 when he volunteered in 1940. In April 1941, he shipped out with the 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force and served in Libya and Egypt and was at the siege of Tobruk. He was captured and held a prisoner of war in Libya. The Germans began loading prisoners onto a submarine bound for Germany. Herb was next in line to be boarded when Allied bombers struck the port. Loading stopped and he was returned to camp. When the Germans withdrew, they handed the camp to the Italians. In 11 weeks, Herb lost 5 stone. The Germans, he said, had been decent enough. The Italians simply starved them. I can remember him saying to me that he'd never known hunger like it. And I'm not sure how the subject came up, but that was all I remember him saying about the war. When the Allies liberated the camp, he had to be nursed back to health before rejoining his unit, then served all the way up through Italy. During the Italian campaign, a German Panzer tank ran over him. He had dived into a shallow trench just in time. He survived, but carried the marks on his back for the rest of his life and suffered kidney damage that never healed. He would not talk about the war. On Sundays he drove his wife Margaret to church, went fishing and collected her afterwards. Now Isabella's 3rd son went to war, Edward Percival Ted Bielski, born 6th of September 1914. Ted was born just weeks after the outbreak of the First World War. He came into the world as one war began and grew up to fight the next. He joined the infantry reinforcements of New Zealand's Expeditionary Force and embarked on almost the same time as Herb, though there are photographs of the two brothers together in uniform taken in Egypt. Ted was a truck driver, kept supply lines moving through the desert heat of Libya and Alexandria and then in Italy. He was made a corporal, got into a disagreement and was demoted back to private. Quietly relieved, his family say. He preferred to be among the ordinary men. He came home in 1945 and almost never spoke about what he had seen. But once, just once, he told me something I would never forget. He said the stench of death stayed with him forever. A year after he came home, Ted went deer stalking in the Ruahinis with friends. He slipped on a log, the rifle discharged, and the bullet passing up through his armpit and through his shoulder. Kevin Nesdale recalled how hunters turned up at Hanson store in Bolton with a wounded man and no money for fuel. Mr. Hanson filled them up with fuel and sent them on their way to the Palmerston North Hospital. There, Ted woke up to find a nurse offering him a cold drink. Her name was Joan Andrews. He decided on the spot he was going to marry that nurse. and he did, not long after. Ted had driven trucks through the deserts of Libya and the ruins of Italy, carried the war inside him, and then he slipped on a log in the Ruinis and gave him someone wonderful in return. And there was a man who went to war twice, and in between became Isabella and Thomas's son-in-law, William George Bill Edge, born 17th of October 1915. I would like to mention that at the last year's Apiti Anzac service, my cousin Jeff Edge spoke about his father's time during World War II. It is with great sadness that Jeff passed away last November. And Mary, we did a YouTube film of that service, so it's on the YouTube if you want to see it, but it's very good. Bill Edge was a farm labourer from Hunterville who volunteered in 1939 and joined the newly formed 27th Machine Gun Battalion. On the 5th of January 1940, he left New Zealand with the 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force and trained in the Egyptian heat and headed to North African desert. In early 1941, his division was posted to Greece and then came Crete. The Battle of Crete in 1941 was one of the most ferocious campaigns New Zealand forces ever fought. Launched the world's first large-scale airborne invasion of paratroopers dropping from the sky in their thousands. Nearly 700 New Zealanders were killed. Bill was there on the trigger of the Vickers machine gun as the Germans parachuted down around him. He was evacuated with 17,000 Allied servicemen to the other side of the island, then back to North Africa to fight the German forces. On the 3rd of March 1944, Bill came home on leave. Whether he thought his war was over, we don't know. At a dance in Mangaweka, he met Desma Bielski, Auntie Desi, daughter of Isabella, sister of Herb and Ted. They married at Otaki on the 24th of June 1944. The army records show Bill was absent without leave that day and fortified 2 days' pay. I don't think he minded. 6 weeks after the wedding, this is hard to believe, he was returned to the Middle East. His war was not over after all. He came home for good on 21st of April 1945, and he and Desi celebrated with a party in Rangawahia on the 17th of May 1945. Bill farmed in Rangawahia, raised 6 children with Desi, and lived as I knew him, a gentle, genuine man, always the same, at peace with his neighbours. He eventually attended Anzac services but he suffered nightmares from which Auntie Bessie would wake him up with a broom handle, asking what was wrong. Whatever he had seen on those Crete hillsides, it was still there in the dark. He died on 16th of July 1987. Every one of these men I have spoken about today was a hero, not because of the medals or rank, but because they crossed the world and did what had to be done so that we could stand here today in peace and remember them. Owen and Richard did not come home. Gilbert, Herb, Ted and Bill did. But they carried the war with them for the rest of their lives, in their bodies, in their silence, in their dreams. That too is a cost we must never forget. I cannot get over my uncles never seemed to allow the horrors they saw to destroy their own lives. They got on with their wives, families, community and businesses. As I look at the white crosses here before us and the names on the cenotaph, I am reminded that every single one of those names tells a story just like theirs. Young men and women who left their farms and families and crossed the world to fight for our freedom. We must never forget them, lest we forget. Thank you.
Wow. We've got to follow that up now, don't we, Apiti School? Elder King. Apiti School reading.
The morning fog drifts through the Aurora, soft and cold and grey, as the hills around Apiti wake to face another day. But the names upon the cenotaph are more than just wood and stone. They are the sons of the mountain soil, the bravest seeds we've ever sown. They left the rugged ranges and the clearing in the bush to face thunders of gun and the Baywa frantic rush. From the farms and from the timber mills, they answered to the call. The names of those who gave their lives we honour one and all. T. Body and J. Campbell, who sailed across the foam. J. Cheney and Edith, who never journeyed home. R. Evans and G. Gange, in the thick of distant fire. R. Gilpin and W. Campbell and Graham, caught behind the wire. W. Lee and R. Osborne, beneath the pouring sky. H. Prince and W. Smith were born heroes who lie. J. Sutherland and W. L. Thompson, names we hold so dearly. In the silence of the high country, their spirits linger near. The grass grows green in Apiti, where once they used to stride, before they traded plough and pen for soldiers to wear pride. They fought for peace in quiet hills, for the land they loved the best. And now within our memories we lay them down to rest. From the heart of the North Island to the shores of Gallipoli, remember the men of Apiti and the price they paid for free, lest we forget.
Now I'm going to pray a benediction, and then we're going to together pray the Lord's Prayer, which many of the army chaplains would have prayed with the soldiers before they went into battle. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's pray the Lord's Prayer together. Hopefully you've got those words in your sheets, or many of us should know this. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I wish the media were here to see what the heart and soul of New Zealand really is. our positive, from the school kids, to Bill Hirschberg, to the other ones that lost their lives, the media should see what New Zealand is. Don't change, everybody. Keep doing what you're doing. I know I just winged it. Okay, few notices, etc., etc., etc. First one, Pauline, where are you? That woman has helped the Apiti and Districts RSA into the new world of the rules and what we have to do to be, what's the words for it, kids? Not politically correct, but that's me. The new rules means that we are right up there with any other RSA. Thank you, Pauline, our secretary. Please tell her that she can't resign. Okay? We need her. Keep it simple, stupid. Thank you to everybody who has put this service together. Probably one of the best. I know the weather makes a difference, but all that you've heard in the media regarding everything, to me, it's a lot of it's BS. Look at you. You're all healthy, you're fit as a buck rat, you don't know what starvation is, and yes, the fuel of, say, diesel is what it is, but Apiti people and districts move on. We do things. We make things happen. In Apiti School, you're right there. Bolton, Apiti and Ringawakia fire brigades, magnificent to see. New Zealand Police, Joe. Mark, no, are you still on the payroll, Mark? Oh, he's not. Jesus, Joe. Thank you, though, for coming. It's a shame that the New Zealand Army couldn't come. Haven't quite got down to why or not. The Manawatu District Council, Sam, has helped us and other districts with our haul and mowing the edges and all that. Your floor, look how lovely the floor is. Technically they paid for that. The new heating, the new wiring, and now this, and we fundraised for the generator, but this is the Civil Defence Centre for the Apiti District. It's no politics, no one owns this building, you own it, so when they call a civil defence emergency, if you can, or local, come here and go from there. If you're out in the wild where I am, you just do it, don't you? You have your own generator, your own fuel, food, etc. But thank you, Manawatu District Council. Russell Knight, very busy man. Been trying to get him to do a shearing plant for me, but he keeps going somewhere else. But he always does the flag. In the morning, early, flag is up. I think once he slept and the flag wasn't put down till what time, Russell? What time did you get the flag down? 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock?
Oh, right.
He's a knight, see that? But thank you, Russell. Our Padre, Dale. I think we booked you for life. Steve and Mary Bielski, once again, have put on something that goes beyond whatever. They live in Rangirotia, they come over here, they help us, they just do it. Christine Edge. Getting good, Christine. Even you got to wing it too. She's lovely. Bill, I heard you getting up that same ladder on the same roof that you fell off. You not listen, Bill. Where is Bill? Oh, he's Bill. He's next up. Philip Pierpoint from Turner Sports. SOS, another SOS. Need a shooter. I said blanks, Philip. Blanks. And his friend Tracy from Kelly's sports shoes. Lovely. Donna and Gayleen for the arrangements. The Biggin Hill Trust for the Anzac flyover. We got 2, but we got the right, well, I think we missed out on the Mustang, but those other 2 were magnificent. Thank you for Brendan Gear. What he does is amazing. Fielding Pipe Band, again, just a phone call, they're there. They've got young ones now, this is great. They lead the parade, great. Blanchie and Trav. Blanchie wants to use real rounds. Our AGM. You young ones probably don't know what an AGM, but it's when we elect our officers for the Apiti District RSA. June the 10th. We pushed it out a bit so we can do it by the book. And Pauline will be putting up things 30 days in advance for President, Vice President, Secretary and Treasurer. And on the Treasurer note, Aaron from the pub has done a magnificent job. Thank you, Aaron. And you'll see him out there soon. We've got to fill out these new forms, which once they're done, they're done. Finally, to all those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, those that have graves and those that have no known graves, we will remember them. We will remember them. Thank you, everybody. Safe travels. You look awesome. You're a magnificent lot of people. You're trying to drink, Russell. Thank you. Awesome.